In light of the Nolan Wells situation and all the racism and evil that is going on in America, I would like to say I am not racist. I don't walk around hating nobody. And it is impossible for black people to be racist because we are at the bottom. And I have white friends. And just because I have white friends does not mean that I won't rebuke the evil that is going on in America. And anybody that don't understand it, you just a op. But I would like to shine some light on those white people that are speaking out against racism in America. Check it out, y'all.
Black people are being lynched all around the country right now. They are being found hanging from trees in public spaces. They're also going missing. They're also being murdered in lots of other ways as well. And I can assure you there is no debate here. No debate whatsoever. Black people do not hang themselves from trees in public. That is not a debate. That is not the world we live in. Don't even try. Now, instead of giving high-level details about all of the people and all of the situations, I recommend, honestly, just leave this video if you feel like it and go to black creators that are talking about it. They're going to have way better insight on this situation than I am. However, there are things that I can talk about as a white human being on the internet, and that's the privilege that I have when I walk into a room or I enter a situation that black people simply don't have. And I can use that privilege to support the black community, and so can you. So if you look like me, let's have a conversation real quick. When I walk into an establishment, I am not immediately judged as somebody who is lesser than, who is going to steal, who is going to harm somebody, who is probably carrying a weapon. That doesn't typically happen, but that does happen with black people. So I have that privilege of walking into somewhere and people not immediately seeing me as a threat. And when I see somebody assuming a black person is a threat, I have the ability to physically put myself in that situation in between the two to either de-escalate it or to push that focus onto me rather than them. This can happen in a situation where a police officer is involved and that police officer is kind of being weird, kind of looking at people weird. This can happen in a situation where there are microaggressions, where there's racism, where an establishment is just like, people are following black people around the grocery store, whatever it is. There's lots of situations that pop up every single day. The second you walk outside, it'll probably happen. You have the ability to physically put yourself in that situation and to, again, either de-escalate or have the escalation moved towards you. The focus is now on you, the person who is probably not going to get harmed or go to jail or get shot dead because they decided to have a confrontation. That situation is a hard reality for black people all around the country, all around the world. White supremacy is getting worse and worse. And what I mean by that, it's already existed. It's existed for forever. But the openness of white supremacy and racism is astronomically bad right now. And if you have any heart, if you are white and you have the ability to stand up for the black community, you better fucking do it, because white supremacy is going to keep getting worse. And if it keeps getting normalized because nobody's saying anything or doing anything or redirecting things towards them where it's not a dangerous situation anymore, then black people are going to keep being found fucking from trees.
You see, I have to bring my friend up here to the podium just to make sure I ain't tripping, because everybody don't receive the information well when it come from certain people. So you got to get their own people to bring out the information to make them get it. You understand?
Most white folks don't have the stomach to say the truth out loud about race, so I'm going to do it for you. Racism ain't a touchy subject if you're not fucking racist. If the truth makes you feel attacked, you're probably protecting a lie. You wouldn't trade places with a black man for $1 million, and you know exactly why. Our racism. If you're staying neutral while a man gets done wrong, you're just helping the fucking bully. Saying you don't see color just means you're too scared to see the fucking truth. If you gotta keep a man on his knees just to feel tall, you're the weakest man in the whole goddamn room. Bragging about a win in a rigged race don't make you a winner. That just makes you a fucking cheater. They taught you to hate your neighbor so you wouldn't notice they're picking your fucking pockets. That's a goddamn truth right there. Your comfort is a bill that someone else is paying with their fucking life. This ain't casual racism. It's fucking real. White supremacy is sinking the whole damn boat just to watch your neighbor go under while you drown with them, motherfucker. White supremacy is burning your own goddamn house to the fucking ground just to make sure your neighbor stays cold. As white people, we have a choice to make. We can find our soul or we can keep the lie, but we'll never have both, ever.
No lies told there. I know y'all don't want to hear from me, so you gotta hear from your own. You're already winning the race. Why are you gonna sit back and get mad that I got a few steps in?
What I want to say is that racism is a white people problem. A white people problem that others are forced to live with. As a white man, I've never had to be afraid of being pulled over by the cops. As a white father, I've never had to have that special talk with my kids about not looking wrong or saying the wrong thing to a cop for fear that they wouldn't come home again. I've never had to worry about being turned down for a mortgage because of the color of my skin or where to go jogging. Never had to worry that I could be scooped up by ICE just for looking like I might belong to the wrong group, even though I was born here. I've never committed the misdemeanor crime of selling cigarettes, but if I did, it wouldn't be a capital offense. These are things that people of color have to deal with every stinking day. These are things that white people allow, that white people cause. I think I'm finally ready to talk about it now because of the state that our country's in, the permission that Donald Trump has given for racist behavior, and the hope I recently felt when I saw the latest poll numbers. For reasons that never made sense to me, Donald Trump has gained support in nearly every demographic when he won his last election, including non-white communities. But now, recent polling suggests that just about everybody is finally seeing him for what he is. They're seeing his racism, and the racism emanating from this administration like stink from a skunk. And they're saying it's not okay. He's lost everything that he gained, and then some, among all these groups. Well, every group except one. That one group is white, non-college educated men, the last stronghold of Trump's race-based politics. Polling indicates that a majority of this group is still standing solidly behind Trump and his policies. Unfortunately for them, they're not going to be any better off under Trump's policies than anybody else. Maybe one day they'll realize that their racism isn't worth what they're losing. And maybe the rest of us will realize something too, that racism is a white people problem, and it's up to white people to solve it. It's up to white people to call it out among their coworkers, their friends, and their family. It's up to white people to be the loudest and proclaim that racism is no longer acceptable in American institutions. It's up to white people to make sure that we're not voting for the racists. Thanks for listening.
That's why I said, do not ever be afraid to speak up for your people, because you're doing God's work. And don't worry about who feel uncomfortable, because if they feel uncomfortable, that means you're speaking against them. And they the op. They don't like your ass in the first place.
A lot of people ask me, what was my aha moment? What made me change my perspective? And it's when I saw this. So a black person in the United States during the Jim Crow era faced second-class citizenship, disenfranchisement, barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, and barriers to housing. Then we had the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which stated we could no longer do any of this. We could no longer discriminate based on race. So in 2023, what is the only group of people that we can legally discriminate against? We can legally relegate to second-class citizenship, create barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, barriers to housing. If you answered convicted felon, you are absolutely correct. In 2023, a convicted felon is the only group of people that we can legally do all this to. Now, do you believe it's a coincidence that 1 in 3 black males carry this label as convicted felon as opposed to 1 in 17 white males? If you answered yes to that question, let's take a look at what's happened since the dismantling of the Jim Crow laws. We've had a 700% increase in our prison population. We've gone from 300,000 inmates to as high as 2.3 million. Now, I do believe we're back down to about 1.8 million today. We had the law and order agenda, which was an increase in police spending and a decrease in school funding, which created the school to prison pipeline. We also had the war on drugs, which we now know was a war on people. We had the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act, and we had the 1994 crime bill. Now, the 86 Anti-Drug Abuse Act differentiated between rock cocaine and powder cocaine, which we know predominantly impacted the black community. And the 94 crime bill created harsher sentences, lengthier sentences, and minimum mandatories. We also know that black people make up 53% of all exonerations, 69% of exonerations for drug crimes, and they're 7 times more likely to be wrongly convicted. So when I seen all of this, I realized that racism in this country never ended.
So what they did was figure out a loophole to keep slavery alive and well today. One way is if you keep a people in a impoverished mindset and keep them impoverished, then those areas crime rate skyrockets. And now y'all see why they signed the rappers that they do, because these rappers ain't uplifting nobody. They keeping you in that same mindset, y'all. This is why they give you food with no nutrition, because nutrition makes you alive and well, happy. All that sugar just keep you down, low, and angry.
Man, I tell you what, nothing makes racist white people more pissed off than me, a white person, trying to educate about racism and trying to educate about what white privilege is and all these things. And it's so funny because these same people will argue with me till they are blue in the face about how they're not racist and we don't live in a racist institution and black and brown people have it so easy and racism doesn't exist anymore. But then they will turn around and say the most racist, ignorant, vile shit you've ever heard in your life. The disconnect is amazing. And this is why I make content like this, because it's so important, because we do live in a racist institution and we are all raised in racism as white people. This is simply a fact. And the crazy part about it is every one of us knows this. Even the ones who will sit there and fight with me to the death about it and act like it doesn't exist. Y'all know white people are racist. Y'all know about the casual racism, the casual microaggressions that we are raised in, no matter where we live in this United States of America. And this is why I will never stop. I will never stop trying to educate as a white person about racism and how we need to learn. We need to evolve. We need to do better. It's almost as if they feel like admitting to a racist institution or admitting to racism makes them this evil, terrible person. And so they would rather double down than to grow and be a good person. And that's so bad, because all that says to me is that you have a small mind and a cowardly soul. And I wish better for you than that, truly, because everything in your life will get better when you stop being so ignorant.
I know some of our people may be envious of millionaires and billionaires and the elites, but the truth is that these people are burdened. They're burdened with hatred that they can't let go. At least you have an opportunity to make that type of money, but these people don't have the opportunity to release that burden of that hatred because they've been holding on to it for so long. It's almost like they don't know no other way. And just imagine holding on to a permanent grudge your whole life. That's not a life at all. So when you think these people are out here enjoying their riches, understand they are always worried about losing it, y'all.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and here are the top 5 ways that hatred is passed on in white families. This is definitely a topic that not a lot of white people like to talk about because they prefer to stay race neutral or at least not air their dirty laundry in public, but I do have some things that I want to say. The first way that white people pass on hatred to their kids is literally at the dinner table. I can't even tell you how many times I'd be at another white person's house growing up, and their mom or dad would say something racist and look to their kid like they made a joke and wait for the kid to react. So in that way, the racist remark serves almost as a point of bonding between the parent and the child. The second way that it's passed on is in sports, especially if a white family or a white team is playing against a team that is primarily people of color. White people will say racist things. Did you see that defender? She was really aggressive, and other microaggressions that get passed on to the child. The third way is by discouraging their children from being friends with people of color because of certain innate qualities that they may have. Number 4, moving their kids to an all-white suburb. Number 5, praising celebrities and politicians that are racist.
So There you go. And I want to give a shout out to all the white people that are stepping up and exposing their own for the racism that they have, for all the hatred that they have in their heart. They get online and actually show their face. Now that's a brave move right there. But y'all let me know what y'all think about the video. Make sure you hype this video up. Big Kish signing out. Gone, y'all.